Across the Park podcast is proud to be sponsored by Globe Gas and Heating. For the best kitchen and bathroom renovations, boiler servicing and repair, and central and underfloor heating in the Northwest, head over to globecentralheating.com and quote Across the Park for a free quote. Hello everybody and welcome to this week's episode of Across the Park podcast on location at the amazing Vauxhall in Crosby, up in the north of Liverpool, where plenty of people with a lot of money live. Vauxhall's an amazing bar. They do great offers on a Monday. I think it's like £6 for a couple of cocktails and pizzas and stuff, so definitely get down. Even I drive down here for a pizza and a shandy in the week. It's a very nice place. It's April Fool's Day when we're recording. No joke what we're going to go through. The accounts were out. Me and Judgy have spoke as obviously friends about everything. We haven't done a show since I think it was when the alleged breach happened. We haven't done a show since, have we?
No.
We've had some guests on and stuff, but we haven't done a show, so it'd be good to give our opinion on what we think and what's going on. Believe it or not, I do hold back on this show a little bit. I do hold back, and I'm fucking shooting from the hip today because it's wound me up. Got my phone out, not being rude, just want to go through. There's a £44 million loss in the accounts this year. That means that overall, with the allowance of 105 million loss over 3 years, Everton over 300 million, over half where we should be. It's almost embarrassing.
Twice.
Yeah, it's twice. So yeah, look, it's scary. Every time I look at something, it gets worse. Every time I meant to have a nice weekend off last weekend, and we had the alleged breach. The accounts come out. A lot of content in the accounts, which I think was embarrassing, which I want to get your opinion on. First of all, when you looked over those accounts last night and the realisation hit of was still in that amount of trouble in a season where we didn't pay James Rodriguez, we didn't pay Luca Dean for half a season, and we sold Richarlison. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, we touched on it a few weeks ago, obviously, when we went through all those Q&As with the boards that they'd answered.
Fan advisory,
the fan advisory board. And I said at the time, and I got some criticism on the comments, which is absolutely fine, by the way, I'm all right with that, about, like, my point was that why can't the club be a little bit more honest about the situation, and the fans might be a bit more understanding. And the comments I got were like, which club does that, you know, which business would do that, blah, blah, blah. But the point was, from a PR point of view, is that I think they get a little bit more leeway if there was a little bit more transparency between them and the fans. But the fact that there isn't, you know, puts them in a worse situation sometimes. And this is you know, a perfect example of that. The amount of, like, little weird little paragraphs there was in there, you know, from the likes of Bill Kenwright and
I've got some here,
and you know, even the full pages from Denise Barrett-Baxendale and Kevin Thelwell. It was just cringy. Like that was a bleak outlook. Like, it couldn't have been any worse. But to not even have any prequel to that, and to not kind of, you know, line it up. I mean, if I was them in the background, I'd be thinking, okay, this is dreadful, but like, we need to gently release this to the fans, not just throw it out in black and white. And they've had plenty of chances though with the questions for the fan advisory board. Things along the line of, are we in trouble, and things on the lines of, you know, where are we up with investments and stuff. It was a perfect chance there to say, do you know what, it's not the way that we'd like it to be. You know, we took gambles on, you know, Ancelotti, we took gambles on this, and that's clear in black and white. The Benitez thing, as you're going to come on to in a moment. They've had plenty of chances to start to kind of, you know, develop that narrative. Now, there's two things for me. One, they either knew in the background that this was coming, which I'm hoping, in a weird way, I hope that's the fact, because if they didn't know that was coming, that's even worse. But if they did know it's coming, like, why not try and, you know what I mean, just try and ease into it and give the fans a little bit more of that realisation.
The 19-20 accounts were bad, but I think they blamed in March the season halted and the revenue stopped, and I think clubs are allowed not only grace from the Premier League, but grace from the fans who looked at those accounts. And then the 2021, almost the entire season, I think Everton brought in 200 grand in gate receipts compared to 15 million in a normal season. Hit hard, so the losses look bad. But then last season, we didn't spend nearly any money. Damari Gray cost 1.6 million. We traded out Luca Dean to bring in Patterson and Michaelenko.
Like Townsend coming on free transfers.
Without that Richarlison sale, we were another £100 million loss.
It's just
and we told James Rodriguez, don't come back. We told Bernard, don't come back. We can't pay you. Find these clubs. We loaned anyone out we could to get them up. How are we so mismanaged? Because it looks to me, you may agree or you may disagree, we absolutely rolled the dice on Champions League football with that Carlo Ancelotti, James Rodriguez, Alan, Abdoulaye Doucouré, Ben Godfrey. That was the season that I think they thought Carlo can get that team into the Champions League. And fair enough, Carlo was in the Champions League places for large parts of that season. It was a good team. Tails off at the end through injuries. It's a gamble that they should never have done. They should have came out and just said, look, every team in this league of a certain position would want that. They can't, and we're one of those. We can't afford it. It's just negligence.
It is negligence, and I love a good analogy, and it's the equivalent of like, you know, mum and dad buying the kids everything under the sun, and then ending up having to sell their house. Do you know what I mean? And ending up on the streets. It's like, at the time, the kids might be like, Dad, what are you doing? Like, get me that, get me that.
Kids made up at the time.
Yeah, but get to 16, like, what are you doing? Are you mad? Why would you do that? I know, like, what kinds of parents are you? So that's the best analogy, and again, I can come up with, and I don't think anyone would disagree with that. No fan, you know, unless you're going to be an ultra businessman about every, you know, bit of the club's affairs, which I don't think you should be. No fan would be saying, I don't want Ancelotti, I don't want these players. But if, as you say, if there was a bit of, you know, context to each situation and each window to say, look, we had opportunities to do this, that, and the other, but it would be irresponsible for us to do that. Moan all we want, but fans don't protest against boards who make responsible decisions. No, they protest when they think the club has been mismanaged.
And how easy is it in this day and age where there's that many sources and that many friends, clubs can unofficially say these things? So when Carlo's linked to Everton in December 2019, give it to Alan Myers and let Alan Myers say on Twitter, look, don't dream about it, they can't do it. It's that simple. And to make those decisions at that time has put us in a situation where I'm going to get to what really scared me, the comments. Before I do, it cost us $10.5 million to get rid of Rafael Benitez and his team, which I believe is a big team around him. We done a show, and it's if you want to go back and you're really bored and your missus is out, go back to the show when Benitez was the Everton manager. We done the instant reaction. We knew that would happen. We don't run the club, we're just supporters. We knew it would happen. Don Hutchison was on the show around that time, and he was saying, I can't believe it's not going to work.
Joe Parkinson, same.
Joe Parkinson, exactly the same, was on our show saying it wasn't going to work. There's another 10 million down the Swanee because the owner wanted Benitez. Look, there's plenty of blame. I was of the opinion that the owner needed guidance and he needed help, and maybe he's just too stubborn. And that still might be the case.
Let's not forget, by the way, hold on, let's not forget, the owner's an accountant by trade, an accountant. So if anyone, you know, and we can talk about the owner coming in and you know, happy-go-lucky, wanting to spend the cash, you know, living the dream and almost being a little bit of a fan, like a fan was if they had 600, 700 million to pump into a club. And you can have that angle, but he's an accountant. He knows that these things, you know, will come back to bite you, particularly when you've got, you know, legislation and rules like financial fair play that came in, you know, just before he took over the club. So there's no excuse as far as I'm concerned, no excuse whatsoever. And as for the people he surrounds himself with, if you're saying he needs his help, he needs his advice, he clearly hasn't looked for that, has he? He hasn't looked for experts, he hasn't looked for a team of people, because he knew those teams of people would be putting these fires out and going, whoa, steady there, Fahad. That's not happening.
Graham Sharp and Bill Kenwright.
What do they know about it? Do you know what I mean? They've never...
That's our board.
Yeah, exactly.
Manager two. No, I think Grant Ingles, I don't know anything about Ingles. I think his content in there was really good.
He's been brought in there now to try and clean it up. And it's like to do all the dirty work. Well, and that's why I was defensive of Grant Ingles, because he hasn't really had a chance to do anything. He's coming in, and again, he's like an accountant who's you know, working on behalf of a sole trader builder who hasn't kept receipts for the last fucking 5 years. He's trying to tidy through and go, what do we do here? How do we clean this mess up? So I had sympathy, and I still do have sympathy for him, because I think he's been thrown under the bus and he's well out of his depth, as most people would be, as a CFO of a club that is mismanaged the finances for
His
so long.
background's money and finances, and again, this is the first time we heard from Ingles. It is content in breaking down the accounts, and I read it last night, and I thought, not anything about Ingles, but I thought he came across quite honest in his interpretation of what he was saying. I've also heard, and this is heard, so it could be true or not, that he was brilliant the first time the Premier League looked at us a year or so ago, that he was the one
He was standing
who's got
up
a relationship with someone
yeah.
at the Premier League and was transparent. I said, we're trying to fix it. That was sort of the first sort of alarm bells of like, Everton have gone too far. To come into this season, now I don't care, and if people are watching this, I don't care what the interpretation, what you think of FFP. It's the rule. Last year, the Premier League said to us, you're doing something wrong there. We've done it again, this. Stop breaking the rules. It's like a naughty kid. Stop doing it.
Yeah, and we've still, by the way, signed Dwight McNeil and Neil Maupay
on more money.
Ridiculous. Whatever the structure of those deals were, it was either going to put us in trouble in the immediate, right now, or it was going to put us in trouble in a couple of years' time. So again, the level of incompetence, negligence, arrogance, it is beyond belief. So listen, I did say that I was going to try and temper this a little bit. One thing I do want to say is that there have been contrary reports that have come out, and they are reports, they're not official, but they are kind of rumours to counter, what the papers are saying and what the media is saying. They're saying, look, it's been over-egged, the stadium's on track. The nature of the accusations, if you like, are not as far down the line as people are suggesting. So we have got to say that at this moment in time.
Matt Hughes from the Daily Mail, the Grim Reaper of Everton Football Club, he'd be chasing that fucking funeral hairstand and videoing it. If you're watching this, do one, because you're doing my head with your negative. You sprayed on the back page of the Daily Mail today, send them down. You've got some sort of agenda, and he was reporting that like, they're going to speed it up to this season, and it's going to be dock points. No one knows that, and you certainly don't know. So if you are watching, do one. So when you're watching my channel, or do one. Got that off my chest.
Cheers, mate.
Talking arrogance there. I told you I'm going to hold back this week.
We need to tag him into this, by the way.
I'm going to hold back this week. It's tag him. Bill Kenwright, divisive figure. Not everyone protests. That doesn't mean not everyone doesn't want him out. But there's a section of the fan base who maybe just think, no, he's an Evertonian, he's remortgaged his house at a certain point. I'd rather have him than Hicks and Gillette. They look at all these positives for Kenwright. The problem I've got now is I've not really came out and attacked Bill Kenwright on this podcast. The problem I've got is the content of what he decided to put in those accounts last night. Probably read them. I'll read them out just because he says he's been castigated by some fans for sharing his opinion that he's enjoyed many times at Everton Football Club. And then he references, do I have to say more than Crystal Palace and Leicester last season? Okay, this is a 70...
Depends which way you're putting it.
This is a 77-year-old Evertonian. Me and Judgy are 37 and 38 respectively. So we've not seen what he's seen. So he has seen multiple league titles. He knows better. He's seen FA Cups. He's seen the amazing 80s team. He's seen the 60s team. He's probably seen Everton win nearly Everton ever competed.
He's seen some of the best players in the world playing for Everton.
To come out and back up good times and then reference Leicester away in a relegation dogfight and Crystal Palace at home with the fucking Gladys people on the pitch crying at the end.
He's lost the plot, hasn't he? He's lost the plot.
He's either lost the plot,
and
he's playing so he's either lost the plot, so someone needs to remove him because we can't have that, or he's invented this fictional character, and he is now aiming this at the generation below us. Now we've probably got pictures with our dads seeing the league title in the 80s and stuff. Can't really remember it. So we've seen the FA Cup. We've been alive for Everton's success. The generation below us haven't. So he's now targeting them and gaslighting them and going, look, get on my side, it is great. And these 13-year-olds probably think Leicester was boss and Palace was boss. He's either gaslighting the generation below us or he's deluded. You've got to remove him. And then he signs it off, Chairman Bill. And not only that, he's never signed off anything like that before. And not only that, you can see him wound up here, so it's a good time for you to tag back in now. He has to bring in the fact that he's hurt deeply that he can't attend football games. Why is that in the accounts?
Exactly. There was a lot of stuff in those accounts, as I alluded to before, that were cringy. And I try and temper that. But that statement in that paragraph was laughable. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing for him. And God forgive me if, as we suggested, and we joked about it before, he's lost the plot. Maybe he has, and maybe there is stuff going on, and he's at that age where that could easily be the case. But who's allowing that in there? Who's not going through that and going, look, Bill, that's a bit of a monologue that we shouldn't have in a professional document.
Because his boss is more crazy than him.
Yeah.
His boss is more out there than him.
Yeah.
His TalkSport interviews promising strikers.
Yeah.
And saying everything's all right apart from the medical team. Now we've sorted that, will be sound.
Yeah.
The whole thing is like, it's scary. And I haven't even got onto the next bit yet.
Hold on, what's Dave Prentice doing?
Dave Prentice is apparently internal comms. So,
but that's an internal. I mean,
yes, we must have reviewed that.
He's reviewed that. I mean, it's a good piece of work. Let's put that out. Is he not said like, look, it's going to get scrutinised, and that is going to be that's going to be the part that's going to be up everywhere. That'll be quoted. It'll be quoted on every banner. You can guarantee that going forward. Some of them lines.
Good times already on the banners, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. Jesus.
Not to go too personal over him. Judgy is someone who's ran businesses in the past. Would you ever put your account up and say, by the way, I'm fucking gutted that Christmas party last year, I weren't invited? That's what he's done. There's a time and a place, and do you know what? Everton have got a great media team. If you want to talk to Evertonians, sit down with the Everton media team and just go, look, there's some communication, and I'm gutted that I can't attend.
Listen, there's two separate things, aren't they? And that's what you're getting to here, and I think that's just to pragmatise it slightly. The two separate things, his personal feelings and the situation of the club and the reality are two separate things.
100%.
So for him to come out in his own monologue or his own Twitter, his social channels, Dave Prentice to write a statement on behalf of him to say the chairman wants to talk to the fans and he wants to say this, fair play, do it.
Yeah.
You know, that's absolutely fine. Everyone's got a right, freedom of speech and all that. The same way that all the fans have got a right to protest. And because they pay the money. He's the chairman of the club, he's got a right to have a say. But don't put it in a document like that, which is damning. It's the most damning, outwardly facing set of communications that I've seen in my time as an Everton fan. So that's not a time, there's a time and a place for that. And that's certainly not it.
It's horrible because we want communication and you get it, you cringe. You're like, I'd rather you just shut up. It's better that you stay silent because what I'm getting, and just imagine, this is a hypothetical scenario here, and I don't mean the MSP group, I mean, imagine someone out there who's looking to invest in a football club. I go, get me the accounts and have a look at it and they fucking read that.
What am I working with here? Why was I invest in that? And again, the rumours, if you like, is that there is still investments on the table. It's not a full takeover.
Yeah.
Going back to your previous point, I would not be considering partial investment in that 40-page dossier or document. That's the you're right. That's the first thing you'd scrutinise.
Yeah.
And the figures speak for themselves, but the narrative is just as damning for the board.
This is alongside the figures being a joke.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Yeah, no, it's that's what I'm saying. The data's bad enough on its own, but if that, you know what, if there was 5 or 6 expert analysis statements that were like, look, we brought this person in from Deloitte, we brought this person in, these are forecasts, blah blah blah. That's where in the accounts the narrative is relative. We brought this consultant in, we've had this auditor who said X, Y, and Z. That takes probably a little bit of the, when it goes, you know what, they're taking it seriously, they've got a good team in place there. It just looks like we've got loads of grannies around, or a loads of owl fellas around the table who are just...
We have.
And it sounds like a Sunday League type setup, like a committee.
The content of these accounts should have been the owner introducing Grant Ingles to talk about here's where we are. Yeah. Kenwright shouldn't have a line in there. Shouldn't have had one line in there.
The bit about the ongoing concern.
This is what I want to get to. I just want to read out briefly. And again, I'm sure you've...
Because this for me has got a place in there, and it's hard, and it's right to the point. Yeah. But that's got a place in there because that's reality. It's too little, too late. Don't get me wrong. I think it's very late in the day to be putting this because it's certainly been on the cards for a long time. But go on.
No, you're right. Look, they're talking about a scenario of relegation. So they talk about if relegation happens, then they go into the existence of a material uncertainty that will cast significant doubt about the group's ability to continue as a going concern. What? So hang on, straight away, we can't continue. And then they go, the board, however, confidence in the club's ability to remain in the Premier League, whatever. Should we be relegated, funding will be secured or refinanced. Okay, let's relax. But
for 12 months.
For an existence period of 12 months. Does that read to you like if we go down, we've got a year?
It does, yeah. I mean, that is the situation that every Premier League club, to some extent, finds themselves in. The parachute payments support you for a year. That's a common knowledge to it. But to say, like, we've got those parachute payments, and then after that we're done. Is bleak.
Can't function.
Is bleak. Not least on top of the fact that, you know, let's say worst case scenario, and I think it might probably worst case scenario is 6 point deduction. 6 point deduction puts us down for me. I can't see how that will put us adrift at the bottom of the league at the moment by 3 points, and, you know, 4 points from getting out. I think that puts us down 6 points. So to have that compounded on top of that statement is horrendous. I can't.
I don't know which part of this show and these accounts is the worst part. Because I'm looking at, like, okay, you have messed up that badly that I don't want yous. Then it reaffirms what I want because we've got content which is a joke, and then we get to you've got a year if we go down. So if we stay up, and I actually think without a point deduction, I think Everton would stay up. If you get a point deduction next season, and we have to tighten the belt, we can't really improve this team. Then next
I guess
season,
no, it's not though. If we stay up, you've effectively got 24 months, haven't you? Because you go down, you get the parachute payments. It's 2 years staying up. Regardless of that, I mean, look, put that aside. In a weird way, it changes nothing. The priority is staying in the Premier League. What it does say to the fans is, look, if we do go down, we're on a clock. It's a ticking clock. Then, in terms of, it's not a matter of whether we cease to trade. It will happen if we stay down there for 12 months. So what it does do is it puts the writing on the wall that staying in the Premier League has never been more of a priority than it is now.
How does, and again, we don't speak for every Evertonian, but from the ones we follow on Twitter, the ones we speak to are the most vocal, and they're against. There's going to be more protest on Monday night against Tottenham. A few friends I've got that eyes have been opened a little bit in relation to what they've seen. Yeah. You know, one of our mates is very positive, and he said even today he didn't realise it was that bad, Neil. He didn't, and fair play to him. How does the relationship between supporter and club improve? Are we now in a scenario where there's no way it improves unless these people leave?
Yeah, I think it's beyond. It's definitely beyond that. Now, we touched on before. You know, not every fan is up for protesting. I think prior to these accounts coming out, I think you would have probably said it was a 60% swing in favour of the protest, supporting the protest, whether you actually walk itself.
Fair, yeah.
And 40% are probably like, well, you know what, it's not that bad. Could be worse, blah, blah, you put all this money in. I think that's probably gone to about 85, 90%. As in, probably the 10% that aren't really completely against the board and everything they stand for and their position in the club, probably the ones who haven't even seen it. or like, listen, that's none of my business and whatever. I'm just here to.
Fair play to those fans who just want to take the Sunday match and they don't really want to.
And do you know what? I'm kind of half in that camp sometimes. Certainly when I take my daughter or my son, I'm like, listen, I don't want him to be kind of corrupted by all that. Yeah, I wanted to, come and enjoy the match the way that I used to enjoy the match. I didn't used to analyse stuff off the pitch when I was, 5-10 years old. I'd look at the league table, who scored, and that was it for me, and that was the bliss, wasn't it, of being a young Evertonian. And I think we need to remember that as adults. Like, if you're watching this, which 95% of our audience is over 18, remember that when you bring your little cousin or your little brother or your little sister to the match, don't let them be, exposed too much to that. I mean, I am fully in support of the protest, absolutely. It does pain me to see kids walking, it does, and that's not a criticism of the lads who take the kids. I get it, and it can be done in the right way, and children do need to be taught to stand up for certain things they believe in. But that's not the experience I would have wanted when I was growing up. No, it isn't.
I think the visual for that, because we spoke to Chris Evan, who's heavily involved in it. I think it's, if you tolerate this, then your children will be next.
Yeah,
and not what you're doing to the next generation.
And I get it. But Chris will be the first one to say he wouldn't have wanted. He'll remember coming there, the match with his dad or his uncle or whatever, and we've done that. And we were bad then as well. I supported. My first game was like 90, 92, 93, first year or whatever of the Premier League. We were dreadful. We were awful. Following year we weren't much better, and Wimbledon comes around. It was a difficult time to be an Evertonian, but I don't remember that being like a negative thing. I remember still being supported, surrounded by enthusiastic Evertonians, and they were up for the fight and all that. And I don't know, I think there's a little bit there. We've just got to be conscious that it still should be a positive experience going the match in a cheesy way. But Look, let's move past that now. I think the party line from me is to be continued. You know, the club have once again dragged us through the shit. They've conducted themselves in a pretty embarrassing manner. Bar Grant Ingles, I think he's given us the black and white, which is what the fans have wanted for a while. And just to go back to messages, I think we need to give him a bit of slack here because he's the person.
He's not the issue.
No, he's not the issue. He needs more support. Again, going back to the analogy of the accountant picking up 5 years worth of no receipts or crumpled up stuff. He needs people around him now that are well equipped, qualified to deal with situations like this and to work alongside him because he can't take all this on the chin. But look, to football matters because, as I say, I think it's to be continued. I think there'll be more that'll come out over the next week, good and bad. And I think the main priority for us as fans and us on this channel is to do what we can do. Yeah. And I said to you this morning in the group, because Millsy put a picture in our WhatsApp of walking down the park with his son and his daughter, and I went, mate, that's what it's about. Control the controllables. You can still live your life. We can still go and support Everton to the hilt. The players on the pitch, that is, we can do our part as we always do to help keep this club in the division. If we do that, and we do our part, and we'll certainly play a big part in that, and we stay in the league, that certainly extends, a period of, extends a period of certainty in the sense that we're not going to go under as a club if we stay in the Premier League this year for at least a few years.
It's just a scary next 6, 7, 8 weeks, and we'll move on to the football now. Feels a bit to me, Judgy, because of this, and I'm linking this into the football. It feels a little bit like, do you remember when the Super 6 rumours happens and we looked at the league and went like, what does it matter now? What happens? Because it feels now to me like because of this cloud hanging over it that there's a possible point deduction, albeit some people have said unlikely. Yeah. But it's there. I feel now, God, we've got to win more games than I thought we actually.
No, it's the same thing, and Dyche will be saying this, and he will have said this from the moment he walked through the door. Even looking at other results, I mean, you look at that when you watch the footy on a Saturday and we're not playing on a Saturday, and teams are taking points off teams you don't expect. And you're like, what's the point here? Even if we win, other teams win. I don't think you can do that. I think you've got to try and win your games and just win as many as possible. Sean Dyche will be saying to the players, look, I'm confident we can get 40 plus points, 42, 43, 44 points. If we do that, even with a deduction, we might be all right. So we've just got to go and win as many games as we can. If we do that, then it doesn't matter what they hit us with. We stay in the league.
Look at that, and I think you need 4 wins. We're playing 4 teams around us between now and the running. Wolves, Bournemouth, albeit at the tail end, and Leicester Palace. I think you can beat both Leicester and Palace. I think Everton can go and beat them. I wasn't looking at Tottenham as a game we had to win. My mindset has been changed this past week. It has. I think Everton have to win Monday night.
No, I don't think...
Do you then think a 1-1 draw is still a good result for Everton? Possibly, hypothetically, 1-1 draw?
I think, again, I'm not thinking about this whole points deduction because I just think it should have, would have, could have. I think a draw against a Tottenham side that's had the shackles taken off, as they will have done now that Conte's left. Who knows? I mean, it seems you've got to suggest this based on the comments that have come out that it's a bit of a relief for the Tottenham players for Conte to have gone. It's been an uncertain time for them. He certainly hasn't been in a good place, and a lot of the players have suggested that was a fact. So I think this is going to be a tough Tottenham team to play on Monday. I think the likes of Son, who's been out of form for a while. I think that's what when you're a top player and you've been going through a poor patch of form, any change is a good thing. It's like, okay, this is different now. I can now, it's a clean slate for me, bang, I can go out. Harry Kane's a top player and he's always capable of the whole thing with Charleston coming back to the club. I think there's a lot of things that I'd be worried about as an Everton player on the pitch against this Tottenham team.
What you're saying there, sorry to interrupt, I've done a show with a Tottenham supporter. We are going to do a match preview. It's out on Sunday, so it depends on when you're watching this. If this is Sunday, find it on the channel and watch it. If this is Saturday when you're watching it,
it'll be coming tomorrow.
It'll be out tomorrow. It's pre-recorded, we've done it. It's like speaking to him again, what you're saying there. He was saying that there's going to be some players who've got a new lease of life, that he probably thinks that the outburst that Conte done post-Southampton, he said Conte would have been doing that internally for weeks and he just burst. So there'll be now, Conte's gone. We can relax. God, He also said he doesn't know what Tottenham team will turn up. he said he can see Tottenham being done 1-0 or winning 4-0 because they're such an indifferent bunch. So I think going into Monday night,
I think what
it is the unknown, and I hate playing teams
without going into the Tottenham thing, because you're right to remind me that show's coming out, and there's going to be a lot more of an insight into the Tottenham psyche from him. But looking at it from our perspective, we've got to assume that there's cracks there because the manager's been in disarray for 6 weeks. The coach has taken over, who maybe picks up a little bit. Yeah, he picks up a little bit of the same style. So maybe that's. But there's going to be uncertainty about what the future holds short term for those groups of players. If we hit them early and go 1-0 up and we score from something like a set play and it looks a mess, it'll be a mess in their heads, the players' heads. And I think that 4-1 to Man City, by the way, it's a shreds of relief. Anyone's watching this will know the score by now, but I've just got a thing on me watch the Man City beating Liverpool 4-1, which is always nice.
And then 5-4 now, watch.
It's always nice. It's always nice. But yeah, I think Everton, if we can rattle them early, or at the very, very least, make sure that they don't break through in the first half and kind of make things difficult for them, then I certainly see it as a game that we're more than capable of winning. And I wouldn't be like shocked and elated that we'd won the game. I'd be thinking, what, fair play. I think that was a game we could have won. We've won it. It's a bonus. But going back to your points, and I've said this a few times, 8 points on the board. Given the fixtures of some of the other teams that got down there this weekend, they're a little bit indifferent. Leeds going to Arsenal, for example, a few of them are playing each other. There's a scenario where we go into that Tottenham game where we're still a couple of points, out of the drop zone, and there's not many teams around us that have picked up some points and gone above us. So a bonus, any point at this stage of the season, apart from against the teams you mentioned before, I think is a bonus.
It's Monday Night Football. It's Easter weekend. People would have booked it off work. He's either been out on the ale all day or they've been giving the kids back and going out on the ale to watch it.
It's Easter weekend next weekend, by the way.
At least holidays, isn't it?
Yeah. It's the kids' holidays, yeah.
So that's what I mean. But
you don't automatically get a day off when the kids are off.
I don't. My wife came in before and I was like, that passing.
Kids are down there.
Back. Bloody hell. You said before, I had like pictures of putting the kids in and they're the controllables. Machiri's more controllable than my two kids. More controllable, I want to put that out there. I think what I'm getting to Monday night is going to be electric.
Yeah,
with the sirens and the sort of light nights are coming back, and I think we'll meet up for a pint before it and go in, and I think the fans have got a massive part to play on Monday. I'd love to see when Tottenham have got the ball, that they're being heckled and booed. I'd love to see when Everton put a tackle in. The grounders. I think it's got the makings of a really, really good night at Goodison.
Definitely, and I think both teams will be up for it, but particularly Everton, as you say, the whole Monday build up and maybe again people leaving work early and having a few drinks and making the most of it. I think Goodison under the lights, it's always a special thing, isn't it? It is. There's something about it, that old ground thing, and that them across the park do experience it as well. It's different when the floodlights are on, and it's got that special atmosphere, and I hope the team can rise to it. I mean, fair play to them in recent weeks. They've done that in a number of games, and Sean Dyche is the type of manager you fancy under the lights. We went to Burnley last season and played a Sean Dyche team, and they done us under the lights, and it was like they just wanted to stay in the game until the last half an hour, and then they just steamrolled us then. Yeah. And if that's the case, I mean, if it was anything like if he can replicate the performance against Tottenham that they've done against us, we go 2-1 down and we end up beating them 3-2, that'll be special. Yeah. That'll be special.
You were saying a couple of shows back, and I don't think this is the case, but I think you said that there are games against some of the bigger teams that Sean Dyche's Burnley give up, but they weren't at home, were they? You're talking of sometimes Sean Dyche's Burnley went away and sort of give up, and like Everton went to
no, at home.
But at home,
they're fearless. They're fearless. Yeah. Sean Dyche's teams at home were fearless, and it was like, this is our patch. Yeah. We rule it here. We play the game. Yeah, we play the game the way we want it. You're playing on our rules. Like an old school English mentality. It's like, we come to your place and maybe you can boss things. You come to England and this is what you're getting. Do you know what I mean? We're gonna play by our rules. And that's something I never doubted when Sean Dyche got the job, is that when at Goodison he could make Goodison without making a cliche of fortress again. And so far, he's not done bad in that sense.
What are you thinking, results, prediction-wise?
Oh, I mean, I said I'd be happy with the draw. And I do think on the balance and everything that's going on, I do think a draw, but I do think there'll be goals. I'm going to go 2-2. Desmond 2-2.
2-2. You've been on form lately, past two predictions.
Yeah,
You've got them spot
last
on.
two have been spot on.
Was it Forest and... I think you called Forest away 2-2.
Yeah.
And then you called...
Chelsea?
And you called Brentford as well. Brentford 1-0.
Yeah.
Get 2-2 on.
So I had 1-1 Chelsea, by the way, and say 2-2.
Betfred's over there, Monrad over there, 2-2. I think either team can win a 2-1. I think it's going to be 1-1. But I just think it'll be on a knife edge. I think I'd fucking love Everton to win 2-1 and get out that ground.
Ellis Sims off the bench again.
That was the fucking war thing.
Yeah.
We've left this till the end because we started 3 or 4 shows ago where we were talking about all our content on the channel, asking people to subscribe.
Got a bit of stick.
Yeah, and do you know what? Fair. If people have got to skip through that,
no, that's true.
Just turn off now.
And we have our ads at the start as well, don't we? So, and I know people
We've got the ads. So, Globe, Gas and Plumbing, that's that. You've seen the advert. Their clothing, we're wearing some Their clothing, and Judgy, you've spoke to them, they've extended the offer, haven't they?
Yeah, they pushed the 25% off. So I'm wearing like a shirt and t-shirt. You can get this combo for 40 odd quid, I think, with the 25% off at checkout. Millsy's sporting a jacket as well. These are perfect for this weather now, where you can wear it open, you can wear it closed. Cold, yeah. I mean, I'm a bit of a, I don't have a huge wardrobe like I did when I was younger. So these shirts where I can button it up to look smart or open it up casual, it works for me. So it's Their Clothing, theirclothing.com, and it's ATP25 if you want to get 25% off your full order. And thanks to all of the people who purchased, by the way, and have left reviews to Their. They've been messaging us saying we've had a few 5-star reviews off your listeners. So thanks for that. It means a lot to them, and obviously it vindicates that we're helping them. So thanks for that.
Perfect. And we did promise you in the last show we done, which was about 10, 11 days ago now. We promised you more content. We said we were speaking to people. If you've not seen it, if you're new and you find us on the Everton hashtag, by the way, please subscribe and go and look at our archive. But spoke to Kevin Campbell and Tony Cotty.
And you get better than that in terms of forwards, doesn't it?
You nailed it when you. I think you said after you spoke to Cotty, sometimes this job is so cool, isn't it? To speak to people like that.
I think I said it to him. I don't know if I said it before. I must have said it to him.
You brought him, they're really nice. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I did. I said it right at the start. I said, look, there's moments when this podcast can be a chore, believe it or not. It might seem like cool sitting here, but organising it and getting here and getting us both together when we both got families is tough.
Yeah.
But then when you get the chance to speak to Kevin Campbell as you did and Tony Cotty as I did, both people who we idolise.
He was someone for you, Cotty, really.
He was like the first, and I even said to him, like, I'm only slight, Millsy's a big, tall, 6 foot. I'm 5'8". I told him I was 5'7", which
to make him feel better.
Yeah. But yeah, I was only a slight kid, and I was always dead small. And I looked at Tony Cotty and thought, if he can do it, do you know what I mean? As a forward, he's banging in goals for Everton. He was a quality striker, and everyone as a kid, whether you end up being a defender or a midfielder, you're all hitting it against the wall, pretending to be the striker, aren't you? And Cotty was the first one that I remember as a kid shouting his name out when I hit the back of the net, or I hit the wall, or I hit the bin, or whatever it was I was playing against. So to speak to him and to have him be so, to talk to me like a mate, call me TC, listen, it's great, and that's what not what we do it for, but you get those odd moments and shows like that where you get a bit of pleasure back as well, which is
we've done those shows as much as we're fangirling out when we speak to these people. We only do them for content because we can speak to them off air and do things with them, and we do it to get good content out. And I watched Judgy and Tony Cotty, absolutely spot on, nearly 40 minutes, and it was all about this season. We've historically spoken to Cotty and Campbell, and Cotty's done a show with us on his Everton career, and so has Campbell, that's in the archives. But he just spoke about this season, and he was honest in saying he's a West Ham boy. Everton are his second team and Leicester are his third, and all three are in the crap at the minute. Yeah. It was a tough show for Tony, but he was absolutely interesting. Brilliant. Yeah,
because he knows the managers intimately as well. He knows David Moyes because he was being a West Ham supporter. He knows Brendan Rodgers very well. Yeah. I didn't realise, to be fair, until the show, and we do a lot of research, that at the back end of his career, I knew he played for Millwall, but I didn't realise that him and Sean Dyche were in the same team.
He knows Sean Dyche.
He knows Sean Dyche as well. So it is interesting listening to him and analysing where he believes, that certain clubs will do better than others. But I think the party line, without spoiling the show, is he believes that all three of his ex-teams will stay up, and he talks about why he thinks that's the case. But listen, it's a good chat, and check it out. It's good, and again, go back to Millsy's point, the content's for you, but fair play to both Kevin Campbell and Tony Cotty. They don't ask for money. And I
We
know
had to
not.
force some sort of, because we've had them both on. Campbell, that was Campbell's third time and Cotty's second. We were adamant, you're giving us your time, let us have something. Tony Cotty told us to donate to the Bobby Moore Foundation, and Kevin Campbell told us to donate to Everton in the community, which we have done.
Yeah.
So fair play, because they could say give us a ton, and we'd have to.
Yeah, we probably would, yeah, because again, it's you know, we don't make money out of this, but we make enough to probably the odd time to pay
to
stuff
cover
like
the
that.
kit and to cover the location and to cover us doing things. So, and Kevin Campbell was brilliant as well. I'm fangirling out looking at Kevin Campbell.
So passionate, by the way.
He went over.
Different shows. So again, if you've only got certain time, if you're looking for a passionate, real life, you know, someone who's a proper Everton fan, although he's Arsenal to a certain extent, like Cotty, but really ex-captain, really going for it. Watch the Campbell one. If you're looking for a more balanced view, watch the Cotty one. If you can watch one.
Still watch both if you can.
Yeah.
I like them as well. Them. Campbell, without spoiling too much, I said to Kevin Campbell during the show, I don't expect you to give me your opinion because the relationship with the club. And he came out, I'm going to give you my opinion. And
he didn't hold back. He didn't hold back,
So lots of content. We hope you are enjoying it. We had a lull last week with the international break, so we decided to do that. Really made up. We had the away fan back on because we got messed around by a Chelsea fan the other week. We put it on our socials.
Don't say that, we're not going to get him back.
We don't want him back. We put him on our socials and he let us down. So great to have Leave the Doors Spurs. That's out on Sunday. There's not much more to add other than I do feel a little bit better. I had a pint. Got me rant off. And I feel like we're back to football now. I needed
and Liverpool are 4-1 down still, which is always nice.
I still fucking believe they're going to win 5-4. No, there's not much more to add. We've got to the end of the show. If you're listening on the audio, you're still our old-time listeners, thank you so much. But it would be great to get you over to YouTube and give us a subscribe and a like. If you're on YouTube and you've just found us, or you've never got around to subscribing because you're using a certain app or a smart TV or a Fire Stick, just type us in your phone on YouTube and just give us a subscribe. It allows us to do a bit more. I hope you've noticed that the shows, if you've watched them last week, would have a better quality. That's because YouTube have allowed us to upload in a different format and a better quality. And that's because you subscribing to us really helps us. So without banging the drum and crying, it's only to help the channel. It's not
Don't worry about it. Everyone's switched off by now anyway.
Everyone's too far. But if you are still here, thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Across the Park. As always, up the fucking toffees.